Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday with me, Ryan, aka Sifu Messiah. This is a weekly show which covers everything from the world of Star Citizen over the past week. Links can be found in the description for everything we discuss, so let's get on with it. I would just like to say a huge thank you to Moby Madness Incorporated, who bought me a beer. Cheers to you, sir. Thank you very much. This week, we hear about the Multicrew stations, we get access to the social module, and the new Vanguard variants are released. So first up this week, we have 10 for the chairman. This is 10 questions from subscribers that get asked to Chris Roberts. Some really good questions, which kind of shine some light onto a lot of the questions we all have, so I'll get on with it. He started off by explaining about the roadmap for the upcoming releases. We've got the social module, then the FPS, then Multicrew, and then they'll start adding various interactions like shops and persistence, and they want to start rolling things out at a regular pace. They said they've had a bit of a gap this year because they've been working on tech for Gamescom and they stopped fine-tuning and patching things like Arena Commander, but they will begin and start rolling out patches much quicker. They said expect things to be broken and buggy, which as you can guarantee it will be because it's an alpha. They say this is why we're along for the ride, because we get to test it out and tell them what's working, what's not working. We're all helping to try and get it completed, so there we are. Anyway, the first question is, can we expect concept sales on alien ships? And they said that the Jean Scout is coming soon. This was one from a while ago. Again, the Banu Merchantman will be coming out after the Jean Scout has been released. Chris did say that there may be some in the future, but don't expect any Vanduul ships in the future because obviously these are a deadly alien race. We are not in contact with them in a friendly way. He did say that they still have many ships to get out before they start thinking about other ones. There's a big backlog, but he says there's no reason why there won't be other ships, alien ships that we can purchase. Anyway, next question is, what other types of vehicles are there for planetside? A good question. We know of the Grey Cat, and obviously the Aquila comes with one of the rovers, and there's actually some new concept art for that, so I'll show that up now while I talk about it. He says there are some other forms of planetside transport in research and development or in R&D at the moment, but it's far too early to share. I expect there'll be very similar things to rovers, but for different roles. So you'd have one for exploration, one for maybe even cargo if you had to land somewhere and travel by land to get to your destination, then you need one that can transport cargo. There may be some mining ones as well. We don't know, but I'm sure there's a lot planned, and as time goes on, more will be released. So, third question. Is there going to be some way of stopping players sprinting everywhere? It's immersion breaking, having everyone running around, and to be honest, I completely agree with this. It's something that annoys me when I want to immerse myself in a certain game. You see everyone just running, but the problem is, we all do it, because sometimes we can be impatient, sometimes we don't have as much time to play, so we have to get from point A to point B as quick as possible, so that ends up just running everywhere. Chris likes the question, but he says he is guilty of it. Again, in the social module when they showed that off, he was sprinting or running. He did say, though, that he will probably let it happen because as much as he wants and loves immersion, he's not going to stop people or punish people for sprinting. Obviously, you do have stamina, so you can't just sprint everywhere, but I think you will be able to run or jog everywhere if you want to. It's the same thing with team communication. He cannot stop people using third-party software like Skype or TeamSpeak. It's just one of those things that he'll have no control over, and he's not going to try and look into it. Because I think there'll be a lot of people who actually want to sprint everywhere, and I know that if I don't have much time, I'll just be running. But anyway, let's move on to the next question. How long after final release will you roll out additional features? And he basically said that it's as long as we let him. Star Citizen won't be a one-off release. Content will always be added, provided that people are playing it. So, like he said, it's a living product. If we're still playing it and engaging on it, then they'll keep releasing it. Hopefully, we will never stop, and it'll just keep getting bigger and bigger. I mean, like Chris Roberts always says, it's like a 10-year project. Hopefully, even longer if they make ways to increase the graphics and so forth. We shall see. Anyway, next question is, it seems nearly impossible to make whole planets explorable. Will there be landing zones we'd be directed to, and then from there we can explore parts of it? And he says yes, first stage, planets will have a minimum of one landing zone, so there will be one. Some of them have 4 or multiple landing zones, and then you'll obviously deal with space traffic control, get permission to land, you will go planet side, and remember when you're transitioning from space to planet side, you can walk around in your ship. You're not stuck in the cockpit. It is kind of a cutscene, but you're able to move around the ship, gather gear up, get dressed, get your weapons ready or whatever. You're not locked to the seat. You just don't have control, so you can't go flying off into buildings and stuff, because obviously that will cause a lot of disruption. But he says moving forward, they are working on new tech where they'll open up other parts of the planet to explore. You can go out mining or exploring. It'll be procedural. Long term, he says, they would like to have as much of a planet as possible to explore, but obviously the level of detail would play against it. Where games like, he says, No Man's Sky, the level of detail to a planet in No Man's Sky compared to Star Citizen is very different. So whereas they can allow these planets to be rendered, you can explore them, Star Citizen has so much level of detail that it just at this current time won't work. But they would love to do it long term, so it'll all be dependent on what technology they create, what comes out of the technology. I mean, we've seen how far technology has come for the past 2 years. I wouldn't be surprised in the next 3-4 years they can render complete planets that are explorable. They can, procedurally generate things to the greatest level of detail. But again, it's all about time, so we shall wait and see. So moving on, is there any plans for NPCs to pronounce the name of your character or your ships when talking to you? Pretty cool. He says there's no plans just yet, but as so far the technology used for this type of chat and audio isn't up to any good standard that he's happy with to use. So he says, if ever possible, then potentially. So if something comes along which allows it to be perfect, no misspellings, no mispronunciations, then they'll look into it. But he said it will definitely not be with a version 1.0. They do have great people working on sound. You will likely have speech recognition down the line, and also surround sound using VoIP, which will sort of take headgear into consideration. He gave an example of someone talking behind you. You will hear his voice and know he's behind you. And if you're wearing a certain headset or helmet, then you'll hear the muffledness or the whatever the material is that your helmet is made from. It'll differ the voices as well. So there's a lot of stuff coming out with the audio. It is, again, still 1.0. It's not likely to have all this contained, but it eventually will get here. So, next question is, how will electronic warfare work in the persistent universe? A very good question, and I know a lot of people are interested in this. He said, next week, we will see a Vanguard variant. Now, this is the E-War, which is the electronic warfare, and they'll go into a high-level design, which we can expect to see next week with this. So, again, the Hornet Ghost will have this capability because it is the same variant of the ships. His idea so far in sort of a real small snippet is long range you can intercept and block. You can scan targets, etc. And short range, you'll have things like data missiles to allow you to connect to a target, then hack or shut certain ship systems down. This is nothing compared to what I expect he's going to explain. It's going to be really detailed, like we saw with the mining mechanic. There's going to be a lot of information to it. That should be coming up next week. I cannot wait to see that. Anyway, next question is, will there be player-owned storage facilities or rental storage space for excess stuff? And he says, yes, your hangar will have space that you can use to store things, which is very cool. But you can also rent storage on other planets. And again, he says you can also have more than one hangar on different planets. So you can have your base at one planet, and then you can get another base or a separate hangar for your ship. So you could probably have ships on every planet if it's capable. You're not just going to be stuck to one. And again, if you have something that you want to wait for the price to differ to maybe where you are now, where the price has dropped, you want to wait for it to come back up again, leave it in storage. When you see that the prices have increased, get back to that planet and sell it on. Anyway, final question. Will there be support for the new Steam controller once released? And he says he has actually had an email between him and Gabe, and there's someone else who are quite high up in Steam. They said that they will send him one. He hasn't received it yet, so he said he'll push through an email and try and get it as soon as possible. So as soon as he gets it, then they can start implementing it into Star Citizen. So yes, it's going to happen. Anyway, that was 10 for the Chairman. That was some really good questions. Tell me your thoughts. What are you happy with? What are you disappointed about? Let's find out. So, on Around the Verse episode 58, we were joined by Sandy and Ben as usual. They started by explaining that the launch of the social module to PTU happened earlier that week, but actually it's now live. If you did not know, it is live. I've done a video on it. I even live streamed it. So get yourself in there, get it downloaded, check it out. Also, something called I'm a Star Citizen, or hashtag I'm a Star Citizen. I'll find a link for you all. There is a little post where people, it was CIG devs to start with, created information cards on each dev for us all to see, and then they opened it up for everyone to start creating their own citizen cards. I'm in the middle of creating one now. I just need to take a picture, and they will pick the best, or the one that they think is the best, and they will win a Vanguard Harbinger. So, as I say, check the description for the link. Again, if I don't put the link in, please just shout at me. Capital letters, I'll get that link in ASAP. So, news from around the verse, starting with Santa Monica CIG. They are white boxing and getting flight ready the Herald, and the other ship with focus on is the Reliant. So, those two should be coming to the hangars pretty soon, I expect. So, CIG in Austin, they were pretty much talking all about the social module, saying that they were doing some final testing. This obviously brings multiplayer emotes chats, you play a loadout which is currently random. You can press F6 while in hangar to swap your loadout though, and it'll just cycle between the light, medium and heavy armor between obviously UEE and pirates. They're looking for bugs, making sure that everyone is syncing up over the networks. They're doing some little art tweaks to doors as they were not always opening properly as they should be in the PTU, and they're looking ahead to CitizenCon to add more features in the social module. So Foundry 42, Zane is in the UK, he is the UI designer, and they're gathering all the UI designers for a month-long summit to unify the UI across all studios. This is for consistent branding with things like style guides for each UI with each manufacturer. This helps to get the content out faster to everyone, and it gets everyone face to face within the development team, because communication is a lot more fluid when you're face to face than over the emails in different time zones. So Foundry 42 Frankfurt, they are in their final office and they are driving CryEngine tech. So Squadron 42 and everything else, they are really pushing that out. There's a big push on design as well, pushing the FPS, lots of pushing. And they're also leading the charge on AI too. They're working on cinematics, getting all the facial work up and running, and they say there's some amazing results. CitizenCon is the first place we will see this. So James Pugh sat down with Alyssa Del Hotal, I believe that's how we pronounce her name, I could be completely wrong. She's the associate marketing producer. She basically helps get stuff ready for sales and events, and she's acting as a tool for organizing people. If you want to see her interview, please check the description for the Around the Verse link and go to the appropriate time. After that, we met with Gurmak Basin, who is talking about the Vanguards. Now, he shows off some interiors. I will go through what he said in here, but after this, we should be looking at the Vanguard variants as a whole. It may be in the first part of Star Citizen Sunday, or it may be in part 2, depending on how much I can get done in time. But anyway, the cockpit chair slides back on the track and spins. He said it gives you a feeling of isolation. It's quite claustrophobic, which is what they wanted because it's a military ship. It's close quarters. You can enter into the pod. This is a live pod. On the E-War ship, it's the E-pod, and on the bomber ship, it's the bomb pod, naturally. It's a two-person escape pod, but he said instead of laying there in a bed like you would find with the majority of the escape pods on ships, waiting to be rescued, they want you to have a little living quarter where you are quite protected and you can still do things while you're in there. You can still walk around. It's a two-person, so you won't be alone. Very, very cool. There's some stairs at the rear to enter the ship. There's some empty space above and below, which is used for components, avionics, etc. And if you were to remove a panel, you would be able to get access to these. This is why there's so much unused space above. Also, some ammo storage is used up there as well. The turret seat is telescoping, so that will drop down, allow you to go up and enter the turret. The bomber variant on the top has 36 rockets plus another 18 in reserve, and it reloads rockets as they are fired. The bomb pod has a glass partition with size 2 torpedoes, very, very huge. Beds on one side, and then the 3 torpedoes on the other. The E-War variant is used for scrambling electronic warfare, shutting down ships and allowing you to board, etc. We will get onto that as well. There's a whole post about electronic warfare put up this week. Very exciting stuff. There's also lots of server racks and stations with different screens, and you can see there's different codes and signals you can use on these screens. Very, very cool. But after that, we met with Lisa Ohanian in Ship Shape, and this week was a very exciting Ship Shape. She was talking all about multi-crew ships and what stations we can expect to see on these ships. So she says there's about 9 stations so far. They may change over time. Some may swap out. They may bring in others for different gameplay scenarios. But each needs to interact with each other and work as a team. That is how you're going to overcome objectives with a big ship. Bigger ships will likely have all 9 stations, whereas smaller ships will have 2 to 3, you know, depending on the size. So the first one being the captain. This is the owner of the ship. He can see all the stations and override if he wants. Set permissions and security, put it on high alert or in a peace state. The pilot, well, clearly flies. The engineering station controls power and the power management for the weapons, the shields, etc, etc. Number 4 is the tactics station, which is sort of more weapon strategy. So what ammo to use, which weapons to use, what countermeasures to use and when. Number 6 is the turret station. They are in control of the weapons and the drones if the ship has those drones. 7 is the science station. That could be E-War, medicine, scanning, anything to do with anything that would require scientific research. Number 8 is the communications station, which is like internal for the intercom or also hailing other ships. And they also get market data for any stores within the ship, so they know where's best to sell. And the final station so far is the security station. So these people are in charge of the crew and the NPCs. They can lock doors, they can set off alarms. I do like the sound of that. They will be the people who walk around your ship if it's a big ship, making sure there are no hull breaches, making sure the people are doing what they're supposed to be doing in that sense. I would love to be a security guard. That would be one of my dreams. Anyway, the Super Hornet would obviously have less stations because there are only 2 crew. So each crew would have access to, let's say, obviously piloting, the engineering station, navigation, communication. You know, each one would have certain degrees of that. Maybe not science, but they may have the E-War. You know, it'll vary depending on the ship size and specifications. So once there, we went back to Sandy and Ben, and they say the plans for CitizenCon are underway. The whole UK team at Foundry 42 will be there, which is very exciting. The character art competition will arrive when the community hub arrives. Now, this is the community hub where I'm hoping I'll be able to post my videos up there and they can get upvoted or downvoted depending on what people like out of them. This is going to be helping the community so much for finding videos that will help them learn more about the game and so on. So the most valuable post goes to M3 Nelios, or Nelos, who has created the glass Star Citizen ships with visible interiors. Very, very smart, very cool. I'll put a link in the description if I can find one, and then you can check them out for yourself. And the sneak peek was, I believe, the first player to enter Art Core in the social module on the dance floor with the CIG devs, called Josh, I think it was. I wonder if he even knew that he was the first. Anyway, that was Around the Verse. Tell me your thoughts. Let's move on. There's a lot to get through. So, as we heard in Around the Verse episode 58, there will be the Vanguard variant sale. Now, this has come this week. I will go through each Vanguard and talk about the difference in each Vanguard and what you can expect to see, plus how much they cost and what the possible CCU upgrades are. So first off, they explain that the Vanguard we know now is the A3G Vanguard Warden. This is the original concept sale Vanguard. There are 2 new variants introduced in this sale. There's the Sentinel, which is the E-War, and the Harbinger, which is the Bomber. They are now available for concept pledges, and the Warden will also be available again for a limited time. They have spent time fleshing out the roles and interiors for the 3 ships, so here we are. The Warden, I'll show you some images now. This is the original. It is $250. You can upgrade it to the Harbinger for $30 or the Sentinel for $15. Now this can survive a hull breach and actually up to about 33% structural loss, which is quite impressive. So it is a deep space fighter. This is what the Vanguards are for, so you can get in there, you can take a hell of a lot of damage and deal just as much damage, but whereas most ships will not be able to sustain life and movement at 33%, the Vanguard can, so it can crawl its way back. It has a heavy-hitting advanced 2-person escape pod, which is very, very cool. I do like that escape pod. Anyway, moving on to the Sentinel. This is the E-War, or the electronic warfare one. Again, some images. This costs $265. It said it's got an augmented reality cockpit with external E-War pod, decoy missiles, and an EMP charge. So the escape pod is specifically designed for the E-War stations. It's probably got some more. Maybe you can hide yourself or jam other ships while you're in the escape pod, so you can even eject from your Vanguard and hopefully still deal some annoying damage. The decoy missiles, I can only assume, are to make them think that you are either firing missiles at them when they're not, or to make them think that that's a ship flying off, whereas it's a missile. Maybe it gives a ship signal instead. And the EMP charges obviously will just completely wipe out the electronics of a ship, which will also play in hand to the enemy if they need to have EMP protection. They say it's great for providing combat support for combined operations, designed for sowing, misdirecting, and confusing the enemy. And also, when paired with other variants, it has been known to take down battle cruisers, which does sound pretty cool. So you can have one of each variant. The E-War to stop the battle cruiser from knowing where you are, from allowing you to board. The Warden for really hitting some heavy punches. And then the Bomber, the Harbinger, for just striking the final blows. Moving on to the Harbinger. This is the Bomber variant. This is $280, so the prices have increased quite considerably. It can go where carrier-based planes or strategic bombers don't due to its size. So things like the Retaliator just can't get to certain places because it's too big, it's too obvious, it's too hefty, its signature is too great. Whereas these are quite small and compact. They can get to places and they can get hit and then get out of there. It said it's got standardized parts and easy to change hull sections. Powerful bomber which can operate out of the roughest forward operating bases. Now there's a cross-section view there. I'll show that hopefully probably while we're talking about it. You can actually get battlefield upgrade kits. So regardless of whatever Vanguard you buy, these kits act similar to the Retaliator modules, and you can swap out the interiors for each variant that you want. So you can actually end up buying every single interior variant and then just having them ready for when you want to change your role, so you don't have to buy each ship separate. The Sentinel Battlefield upgrade kit is $25, the Harbinger is $45, and the Warden is $10. So whichever ship you do decide to buy, you are not stuck with that as the one-off ship. You can, if you bought the Sentinel, then you can obviously buy the Harbinger Battlefield upgrade kit, swap it in if you wanted it, or just keep it as it is, and vice versa. Very, very cool. That is the only 3 variants that we have seen so far. I wouldn't be surprised if there were other modules to swap out the interiors for maybe a living module. We shall see. But anyway, that is the price and that is the range. Tell me if you're interested in one. Are you going to buy one? Have you bought one? Are you going to swap it for something else? Let's move on. So as usual, we have the Star Marine update. They start off by talking about this big merge, and the staging emerged to game dev from the main 1.2.0 staging. It began this week. Efforts are being made to resolve conflicts as soon as they arise, and they're resolving issues pretty much 24/7 with all the different studios from around the world. At the time of writing this, which was on Saturday, they said that currently they have 5,860 unmerged CLs out of 7,718, which they started on Wednesday. They expect 6 to 7 days until they're done. After the merge, there's a code review and getting game dev stable. This will take about 3 weeks total. They've also improved cover animation system in action, new enemy grenade indicators, and the personal shield visual effects, which we can actually see here. This is the image that or the video they showed us. Ricochets are real, they say, so be careful. Now, it does mention that Ilphonic are still working on the new objective-based game mode to replace team elimination. Couple of points in that one sentence is obviously replace means that team elimination is not likely to be in there. It is going to be an objective-based game mode only. And also, Ilphonic, I have been told that Ilphonic are now no longer part of the actual development crew. Whether or not this is true or not, I don't know. I have no reason not to believe this, so it sounds like Ilphonic have now stepped down. They are no longer part of the game development, and it's been handed over to someone else. Anyway, with that said, if anyone's got any more information on that, please let us know. But let's move on to the audio for Star Marine. The new recordings for weapons in different environments sound great. Obviously, enclosed hallways sound completely different to open gallery spaces. They said hopefully they'll share some of this with us next week. That does sound cool. Gameplay-wise, they said the gameplay changes are limited due to the merge. For the new game mode, they have finished work on capture, objective, functionality, and spawning rules, but that's pretty much it because they are all focused on getting this merge done. In regards to UI, or user interface, as heard in around the verse, they're all heading to the UK for the Global UI Summit. Work is needed for Star Marine and the Persistent Universe, and they said that we'll hear more about that next week. In the art side of things, the Devastator shotgun work is done. There's another little video there of the Devastator shotgun. They're also focusing on the Arclight material decal revisions, and there's some images of clean and used Arclight pistols. Very nice. Also, work on helmet interiors have been done for the hoods, and character art for the lobby UI loadout screens are done as well. So animation, they have finished the first pass for all animations for Crouch Duke steps. They say there's not many blockers left. They just need a little time to implement, test, and fix. The base locomotion sets for weapons are done. Start, stop, and Duke's first pass implementations are in, but still need code support and tuning. Hurt locomotion sets, cover mantling, and sliding are in. Death animations, ragdoll cleanup, and unarmed locomotion sets are in progress. Work on the EVA will begin once this is complete. Ongoing tasks are mocap cleanup for cover animations and pistol mag check animations. Now, it does sound like they are really chopping down a lot of the blockers that are stopping Star Marine from getting to us. Obviously, things like EVA, if they haven't even started on that yet, it's got to take a lot of time, but they are getting much, much closer. So hopefully, it's only looking like a month, hopefully less, but if not, I expect we'll probably see it for CitizenCon. Anyway, that was the Star Marine update. Tell me your thoughts. Okay, so on a final note, we have affiliated with Razer as we feel they make excellent gaming products, and if you want to help our channel out, plus buy amazing hardware, use the link in our description, and we'll get a little kickback every time a product is bought. So that's it for part 1. Tomorrow, part 2 will bring the deep dive on electronic warfare, plus what the release of the social module means for the rest of the Star Citizen project. Until then, thank you for watching, don't forget to subscribe, like and share, and we'll see you soon.